I have reviewed the report, and based on my 33 years in higher education, I can see elements over there, good number of elements and areas that may seem irregular as I look here in this conversation. But these are common practice in higher education and are not irregular.
For the most recent objective type operational audit, which was very positive, although we know from the report that our state auditors assert that observation is irrelevant and misleading. I recognize, though, that we're an exceptionally large and complex organization involving over a $300 million annual operating budget, thousands of staff, many of which turn over on a regular basis, and likely millions of business transactions every year. We would be kidding ourselves, even under the best of circumstances, if we imagine no mistakes are ever made. That said, when such mistakes are made and discovered, they are addressed in a situation where those mistakes are a result of careless work or willful disregard of policies. Disciplinary action up to and including separation from the university now takes place. Toward the same end, and pertinent to the performance audit in front of you, NDSU has in the past 2 years aggressively worked to simplify and bring more transparency to our collection and use of student tuition and student fees. As you may know, the state board unanimously approved, and this fall NDSU will initiate the student success tuition model that the auditor highlighted for you earlier. That model encourages students to take 15 credits loads, leading to better retention and graduation in 4 years, and also eliminates most of the confusing array of program fees and course fees, which we are discussing today, by consolidating them in a single tuition charge. In other words, by this time next year, many if not most of the areas of concern identified in the auditor's report will be moot at NDSU. Both the State Board of Higher Education and our state auditors in the report have recognized and applauded this initiative. Our hope is that it will prove to be a helpful model for other system schools, and we understand that several out-of-state institutions are studying it as well. As we now turn to the subjective performance audit at hand, we'd like to thank the State Auditor's Office for the 8 to 10 months and estimated thousands of hours of work put into the review. We can only imagine the challenge of that situation for them. As highlighted above, major research universities are much larger and more complex than typical state agencies. Understanding the nuanced complexities necessary to administer universities and the expertise-driven discretion requisitely afforded higher education professionals doing so, no doubt seemed unfathomable to those coming in without a higher education background. It would certainly be much easier if there was a policy manual for all aspects and contingencies involved with running a university. But anyone experienced with them, and for that matter any large, highly complex organization, would appreciate the impracticality of that notion.
Well, Mr. Chairman, to the extent that there's some who seem to feel that some of these problems are in large part our fault for not providing enough funding or compliance officers, I just want to make a couple of statements and defend myself as a legislator on that. Some of these things that we found in here, and practically every other performance audit that we do, are pretty trivial and nitpicky. And in defense of the auditor's office, I don't know that we tell them to sort those out and let them use their judgment on what's trivial and nitpicky. So when they find things that aren't according to law or to policy, I expect them to point them out and then let us choose which ones are trivial and which ones we think are significant. So, that acknowledged, there is a bunch of stuff in here that's trivial. There are some things that I think aren't. And when we're talking about compliance officers, to me, if we need a compliance officer to tell university employees that using these fees to buy a first-class airline ticket to India is out of line, then I'm really frustrated that our employees need to be told that. Or if we need a compliance officer to point out that a $20,000 separation agreement, so somebody can leave the place a little happier than what they otherwise would, using student fees is wrong. Again, I don't think that's the role of a compliance officer. It's a matter of right and wrong, and our employees should know that. When it comes to the tuition aspect of our blame in the situations that we find, we're in pretty good shape financially, but we don't have enough money to educate the whole world. And no matter how much money we would pour into the university system, if we go out and recruit hard enough and waive enough tuition, we can once again find ourselves short and have to make it up elsewhere, such as fees. So while we limit the tuition that the universities can charge, we don't require them to recruit any certain number of people, and we don't require them to waive